Hey, we're back.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Good.
We're good.
Good.
Fantastic.
Now that I know the end is in sight, Jerry.
uh,
Get a break from you.
I felt like
no
Aw.
kidding.
re-listening to the end. It was like, is this the end of like the second to the end episode of Lost? Is this? Are we? Has he explained the tunnel? Are we in purgatory?
Yeah, you might.
Oh crap.
I'm trying not to give anything away, and it's so hard because people ask, and had some comments on YouTube and in Facebook from people just kind of generally wondering what was going on at the end there, and I'm like, nah, I really want to tell people, but I know I shouldn't.
Stuff is happening.
Stuff is
Yeah.
happening.
Stuff is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said, "Oh, they're in the Underdark now," and I'm like, I don't know.
You'll have to find out.
Right. Tune in next season, right? Well, thank you all for being here. This is our fabulous season 2 wrap-up episode that we're recording right now, and I'm so excited to see you guys one last time before we take a big break. Yeah. So I'm just memorizing your faces now.
Can we give a quick applause to Don's background really quick? And I do have Jerry over his shoulder, which is just a little
Exactly.
distracting.
Yeah, it's actually distracting.
That's exactly what I wanted him to be there. I was trying to position him that way.
Am I the angel on your shoulder or the devil?
Definitely the devil.
Oh.
Definitely the devil.
Wow.
He didn't
Yeah,
have a state.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I didn't convince you to do too many bad things this season. Although,
Well, there was drinking.
Bad things.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
I don't
that-
think Kragar needed any convincing to do bad things. He was ready.
He was quite content to do bad things.
Yeah, he was on board.
yeah, he was. On
Although
board.
I think overall he really didn't do a lot of bad things.
No, I think it was in a gray area.
He
at most.
wanted to do probably more bad things than he was let to do.
That is
I
true.
don't know. I don't know.
No? Does Krager have a T-shirt at home? Born to be bad.
I mean, it never. I don't know that it ever really came out, but I mean, on his character sheet, he's neutral evil.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
He's an evil
Yeah.
character.
Hmm.
But you know, it was the whole intent was just wasn't chaotic. Like he had a plan,
Right.
and just because you're evil doesn't mean you don't care about certain people.
True.
Yeah, they'd be enabled to function if that were the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's. I think it came up a couple of times where you at least hinted at it throughout the season that
Yeah.
you weren't this Mr. Goody Two Shoes that you were appearing to be. No, I don't think that ever happened at all. You were pretty violent from the start. But what do you expect when I throw you into a room where you have to share one mutual
Bucket.
bucket?
The bucket.
Yeah. You're in
I
a
think-
doomed city
Oh,
with pirates and
that's
thieves
why.
and slaves. Yeah, an
I
evil
think-
baron.
Krager was more like, enlightened self-interest.
Yep.
Mhm.
It begs the question: Do evil people? They don't necessarily think they're evil.
That I always love that concept myself. Yeah.
It's like the villain, super villain, who doesn't. They think they're the hero.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think you played your character very well,
Yeah.
Kragar.
I had fun with him.
Once again,
Yeah. He was interesting, and you have this knack for going your own way and proposing things that would just totally ruin the story. And I don't know if it was intentional or not.
I actually never tried to ruin the story.
Oh yeah, no, I mean you just
Never try.
let it out, Jerry. Let it out. Here it is.
so many times where he's just like, I've dreaded, like I'm just like, should I plan for this? And I'm like, no, I just have to trust that no one's going to say this or do this. And then Kragar's there to say and do that.
There you go.
And I'm like, it's uncanny how you have that ability, and I couldn't tell if you were messing with me, because sometimes you're definitely messing with me.
Sometimes, yes, absolutely. Sometimes I do try to mess with you, just a little bit.
Yeah. Other
And I just hear
times,
that.
it's just like I maybe should have given more thought to, somebody feeling like we need to do this instead of this, which was
It's probably
very
a little,
interesting.
probably more the challenge of, DMing like experienced gamers versus, someone who's not really attended to like a certain game or something like that, and just like it's not done the player's first rodeo.
No.
Yeah, by and
play for the
large.
rodeos.
Yeah, you guys are very easygoing. And for somebody like me, I mean, you guys have vastly more experience than I do gaming and role playing, and so I know that you have this kind of wealth of experience behind you, and I'm trying to get you to do things, and sometimes I'm just, like hoping and praying more than more than anything, more than I actually have an actual plan. But and you guys seem to pick up on that, which is I think kept the story going in a number of cases. And anytime Craigar is there to say something that I don't want to happen,
Yeah.
someone else jumps in and kind of turns it around. So it didn't really come up. Only
I feel
really
like that someone was Triss a lot.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Sometimes real life just enters in.
Uh-huh. 2 seasons in a row that has been your
Don's
role.
not the only one
Yeah.
laughing. What's going on?
Just got to steer him back sometimes, like, oh, I know you see the shiny thing over here, honey, but come on.
What?
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you do that for all of us, frankly. So
Yeah.
Yep. And and that's really speaking of Triss, has really endeared you to some people. I think I've heard people most vocal about your characters over the past couple of seasons.
Mhm.
Really, really liking what you bring to the game, which is
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. No, I know my mother-in-law, for example, who is no doubt avid listener. She comments to me quite often about the story and how terrible I am to you all. And, but she
This
loves
is your mother-in-law?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
someone needs to say it.
Yeah, and we've had a few other people who have also chimed in and talked about Triss and her impact on the storyline, and keeping things moving in the right direction. And I think it's been hugely helpful, keeping us on the rails, so to speak.
All right. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it is pretty cool. I mean, and I've heard other things from the other characters. I mean, people loved Bjorn and his ways in season 1, and thought that a lot of that same sort of attitude was kind of picked up in season 2. And Alar, I think people felt was over the top. There's something comforting that people get from
Exactly.
Craigar. I don't know
Little over
what
the
that
top.
is, but I think it's just Don's voice that puts people at ease.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you have
I
a good
don't know.
voice, man.
Yeah.
Just before you go into sleep, that's what everybody wants to hear is Craigar's voice whispering in their ear.
Let's
Are you
go,
ready to
Paul.
die?
I will say I really appreciated that what you brought with Brokos and kind of that eager. I mean, like I
Yeah.
got that idea of kind of this, this eager teenager, like
Yeah.
wanting
Yeah.
to be, in it and part
Right.
it. And I don't know. Yeah.
I wanted to try to make plenty of mistakes and say stupid things. Not saying that just because you're in your 30s, that means that you're not saying stupid things, but I'm trying to like that 16-year-old of like tries too hard sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Be in that acceptance and try to be accepted, and might be a little bit like socially awkward because of like everywhere we're coming from is like Triss and Kragar are definitely more like they will fight, and they're not there's no fear in that, right? And
And more
whereas
cynical too.
right, and
Yeah.
and Alar is much more. It's about Alar, but there's a part of Alar that cares. But I think Brokos is trying to find that part, and he wants to be that accepted by Alar because he
Yeah.
kind of looks up to him, or he wants some kind of bond, and he may try to force it sometimes. And I do like the way that Alar kind of plays back and just like pushes him away to make him feel,
Put him in his place.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the main show.
Mhm.
You can be here, but
Right.
you are not the main show.
Mhm.
Hmm.
You know, there are lots of times where Brokos in the season, and Bjorn in the previous season, really saved the day, and was amazing, doing amazing damage, amazing utility. You know, in the first season, doing amazing damage, lots of utility and
Hmm.
A lot.
stuff
Yeah.
this season, which helped out a lot. And it's funny because you're sort of in the spotlight, but I think in both seasons had that role where you sort of attached yourself to Ted's character and kind of, were a little bit playing second fiddle,
Yeah.
to whoever Ted was playing, which I
Yeah,
thought
you
was
did that
really
with
cool.
Aileron too. That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I tried to be a
Yeah.
little bit more vocally quiet this time, and not like Bjorn had to just always be the first person to say something and the last person to say something. He just
Yeah,
had to.
he
And
talked a
this time
lot.
and this time I tried to just try to settle that down. I'm like, well, should I say something or shouldn't I? Because I don't want to look silly, and or something of that nature. But yeah, it was a lot more fun this time around, being more of a utility. And that's what I love about spellcasters and druids, but it's more of a spell casting utilitarian kind of spellcaster. It's a lot of fun, and it's underrated. Everybody wants to be that spellcaster of just throwing out fireballs and doing damage, but man, putting someone in they're kind of in a place where they're at a disadvantage, and
Yeah.
everybody else,
Mhm.
and watching Kragar and Triss just go at them, that's just enjoyable.
Well, I can say I appreciated actually having people who could heal.
Yeah.
Playing a much squishier character.
Yeah,
It's like-
the biggest thing about was your hit points.
Yeah.
This was
Oh,
I was
man.
literally just like, wow, he's going in with that.
Charging in.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
he meant business, and that's how he dealt it. It was in the end of his blade. But again, it was like one of those things. It's like, is he going to make it through this season? I don't
Yeah.
know.
it's okay to have that weakness, though, right? Everybody wants a weakness in their character. Otherwise, it's no fun to play.
Oh no, I would have liked more hit points. Like, but
Yeah,
I was,
but it makes
I was
you
very
rely
appreciative.
It makes you rely on someone else, right? Where it's just not just yourself.
He kept you up, man.
Yeah, and as
Well,
far
yeah,
as
you guys did a great job of that
Mhm.
too.
now, as far as questioning Bjorn about how much damage he did in the first level, now as a rogue, I hope you understand in 5e, Don, of how ruthless point sneak attack can be.
Yeah, and it was it definitely shown sometimes, but I don't know. I just seem to have really bad luck getting it to land.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
that because as the hobgoblin, as the bugbear, he gets that extra 2d6 damage in the first round of combat on a surprise.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
But I don't know that the number of times that I actually got to pull it off was pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that last fight, I'm like, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna just probably tear this character up and walk away.
Aw.
I'm like, oh, so this has got to happen.
Kragar, where are you going? Kragar?
Stab
just done.
this gladiator. So
Yeah.
to get two really good crits in that fight was, it's like, okay, that was
Yeah.
cool.
That's worth it. Yeah. I think your long arms, your reach, caused me just
Yeah.
many problems.
That was, yeah.
That really stacked well.
Yeah. That was, and it was just something that I never got used to throughout the entire season, was that you could be 10 feet away and still land these attacks, or grab things. There was the
Yeah.
one part in the
Oh
left
yeah.
where just
It's a
reach
huge
through and
advantage.
Yeah, I was curious to see because Bugbear is a new playable race, right, to 5e, and so I was really kind of excited to see what advantage you would get, why you want to play a Bugbear, and you answered it.
Well, I mean, that certainly helped me make that decision because
Mhm.
obviously I was trying to optimize the character. But honestly, I really like bugbears. Like as a race, I've always kind of just thought they were super cool and enjoyed throwing them against the parties and things like that. So to get to play one,
Mhm.
that was a lot of fun. I think they're an interesting race. So
cool.
So if owlbears were a playable race, would that be your next one?
I think that'd be too limiting.
Okay.
Yeah. She's poking fun because that's like my favorite D&D creature is the owlbear. I'm kind of
They are
obsessed with it.
pretty
Classic,
much the top.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is they're classic, but there's just something just cool about them. So
Well, they look cool. Number one.
They do look cool.
Yeah, they do. They
We've
do.
got that really lovely owlbear print
Oh,
in our.
it
yeah.
is one of my like treasures. It's a signed Tony D. Terlizzi owlbear. It's the North American
Wow.
owlbear, and I've got it framed and matted. It's kind of back in the hall, and it's like I absolutely love it. And the fact that I got a copy just made me very happy.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what I'm dealing with, this sort of knowledge and love for this game, which I think comes through a lot, and people just seem to resonate with it. We're not never going to be Critical Role. I'm never gonna get the voices down, that's for sure. I can't remember them from one episode to the next.
That's really hard to do. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
That is, I think, something that people don't mention a lot is just remembering what you did the previous episode for someone. Totally, I have no clue what I'm doing. But, I think that there's just like this sort of underlying kind of like knowledge and geekiness that we all bring to the table here that is very authentic, and no one really questions that, and I think it's very comforting. I've seen some streams of people who will never be famous, never be recognized as much as they should be, and man, I start watching them and I could watch them all day long. Snowing outside, I'm chilling inside under an Afghan that my wife has crocheted for me, and listening to some stream that no one's ever heard of, but the people are just so real and just having fun, and that's an amazing thing.
I think it's a passion for the game, and I mean, I'm guessing everybody would agree. Sometimes you're not in the best mood, and you don't really want to, like, okay, I'm gonna get through this, and maybe I'm just a little bit off today. But once we're in it, and that that red light starts, there's something about it that there's part of me that's like, okay, we're here to entertain people, but it's so entertaining just to be with you guys. And I love playing with you guys that that kind of portion just goes in the background, and it really kind of takes away from everything that's going out in the real world and craziness maybe dealing in your life. And it's just kind of a nice escape, but it's also entertaining. I like to entertain myself. I'm entertaining myself with this. So
I think I was very aware of that, like the fact that people are going to be watching us when we first started doing this, or listening to us when we first started doing this. And that was, I was really anxiety provoking for me. But I don't know now, just like you said, that it's kind of faded into the background, and it's like, whatever,
Right.
So I think that makes the experience a lot better for me.
Yeah.
And it was tough at the
I
beginning.
completely agree with you. That's been my experience too. Like I really don't pay attention to the microphone at this point. Like I kind of do, but I try to make you guys laugh. I try to have fun with you guys.
Right.
Like that's what I'm
Yeah.
focused on.
Yeah.
And that will kind of go into the crowd. So I got a question for Rochelle. I really, your voice, you and Don, nothing against me and of course Ted, but I'm just for you specifically. You specifically,
Bad.
your voices were really good for both seasons. I really enjoy your voice work. Do you find that it's a little bit easier to get into your character and stay there because sometimes I feel like I'm just talking like myself, and I'm supposed to be speaking on behalf of like Brokos versus actually doing somewhat of a voice for Brokos. Do you feel like it helps you kind of more just get into that where you're not thinking about anybody listening?
I mean, I think for me, having a voice helps me like relate to my character more.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of this like, oh yeah, this is not me. This is, whoever it might be. And so, although definitely I think my characters have aspects of my own personality, or yeah, so we'll just leave it at that. It's that, yeah, it helps me to kind of like, okay, this is who I am, or this is who I'm thinking as right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so too. I enjoy staying. It helps me to try to stay in character and try to think like my character. I think that for me, it was maybe more important for Cole Show, because I spent a lot more time working on his voice, actually listening to Icelandic videos. And no, I'm completely serious, because I had an idea of the culture that I wanted to review from, but I had no idea how to do that type of voice. So I spent a fair amount of time practicing that to try.
Wow, man!
Well, you nailed it.
Yeah.
I did not do that for Krieger, because there's really no good example. I was trying to find, a monstrous humanoid in film.
Right.
It's like there's not a lot to draw from. So I don't know. To me, it maybe was a little bit more generic, and it was also kind of harder to maintain, just because trying to do that guttural sort of sound.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of on the throat
for hours on end. I was like, wow, this is hard to stay in.
Yeah.
I had trouble with Brokos. I had trouble with Brokos's voice. I just didn't know where I went. With Bjorn, it was easy. I want to speak like my grandpa did in northern Minnesota. That was it. It was easy. I know that voice.
Nice.
But with this, I'm just like, I just didn't know as much about Brokos. I was very firm on what Bjorn was and where he was from, and kind of, the halfling was a little bit more fun to play. And Brokos is just like, I really didn't know where it was coming from. And so the voice, like Rochelle, you say it helps you get into your character, and I can totally understand it. Because sometimes I felt like I was just playing my character. I wasn't my character sometimes with Brokos,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I had to kind of will myself to get in there. And once I did, like when I could turn into an animal or something like that, that's when it really helped me as a character, because then, I didn't have to speak as much as I could just use my descriptions of what I was doing as an animal to hopefully creep you all out.
You got that, man.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. You did excellent job. I think everyone did an excellent job. And I think, this was a weird season for all of us. Having a pandemic hit midway through, we're all kind of struggling. I struggled from, the fact that my whole life was transitioning around me, working from home, lots of uncertainty with schooling and things like that for, children. Stuff that everyone else is going through. But I fixated on this podcast so much, and I just wanted it to be better. And I was just so bummed at the start that, I didn't have the audio quality that I wanted, and that we, sounded slightly different than we normally do. And I kept researching different services and wasted a lot of time. And I think kind of midway through, I sort of was close to just burning out, because I was so focused on these little details. And finally, I think it was maybe a conversation that we had after recording session or something. I just realized that it is what it is right now, quality wise, and I'm just going to make the best of it. We're just 5 people trying to play a game and have fun. And I think that kind of ease, that's when I sort of got used to dealing with this situation. And I noticed all of you kind of went through a similar thing, struggling with that. And, for all of you to do as well as you did with all of the chaos that happened this year, it's amazing. And it's kind of a testament to you as individuals, as your characters, how this game sort of helped us kind of grow and stay sane throughout this whole process. Even though we're still right in the middle of it, but
sometimes you gotta let Lathander take the wheel, right? So I got a question for Ted, if I can ask.
Okay.
You certainly, knowing you personally, where did you take your inspiration from being kind of an arrogant jerk? It's not like your person.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
do you know what I mean? I know you as a person, and that's not what I know. That's not Ted.
No, I mean, me, I tend to fade into the background, like, so doing Alar was me trying to push myself to try something new and different. Just to, and I, midway through the season, I didn't want him to be a one-note character, and just a joke character the entire time. So I don't know if you noticed that I was trying to go for the more heroic choices and, pushing us towards that a little bit more. But yeah, I definitely a little bit of Shatner and a little bit of Zap Brannigan.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good mixture. Well, you nailed it.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever thought of Alar as an arrogant jerk.
Well, that's what we were, because I see it from a Broco standpoint.
I mean,
I wouldn't say, I would say arrogant, right?
Arrogant, yeah.
Maybe jerk wasn't the right word. Maybe arrogant.
I think jerk could have been the result at times. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's how I saw Broco saw it. Like, man, he's just being a jerk, But I saw, I think the turn for you was when we were at, I don't forget who that mother was, the house.
Right. The grandma.
I think that was where you kind of really played into it. Yeah. And that's where you said, well, okay, now I get it. And I think it showed where you that more heroism you talk about. I could see that kind of developing right then and there.
Triss always thought that Alar was really just covering for deep-seated insecurity.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's the therapist in me, trying to justify his background. And that, when I got to talk about, my adoptive father never quite accepting me because I was a, child of infidelity, never being good enough, that whole thing. Yeah, absolutely. That's where it came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have that thick skin. You're trying to make a name for yourself, and that was a question I wanted to bring up, because this whole season was kind of designed to, season 1, everyone's backstories played like this integral part to how the story developed, and tried to work it in for everybody. This season, I wanted to take you away from that, where all of your background stuff didn't really matter. There was no connection. There was no nothing. I think Triss, just to kind of move the story along, one of the big bad people involved had to have that kind of connection and answer some questions for her character. But the rest of you just kind of got pulled out of your lives, dropped into this room where you're trapped together, and what you did or what you were didn't really matter a whole lot. So you didn't really have a chance to shine as a character from, the perspective of your background, that you're trying to make a name for yourself as a bard in this city. And then the city's in chaos,
Just when you're about to hit it big, boom.
I know.
Yeah, that was that wedding was a big deal for you.
It was a big shot. And
it was kind of interesting because how that was going and set up. I'm like, okay, we're going to really play into this whole bard thing and band thing and like that. And then it's off the track immediately.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I think that maybe helped the story a little bit better, because you were challenged a little bit more.
It made me have to be more creative with where I was going to take my character. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jerry,
go ahead.
I have a question for you.
Oh.
This was pretty dark.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So
are you okay, Jerry?
Did you know that?
Okay?
Right. Did you know that that's what you wanted to do almost immediately after, when you started thinking about it? Did you know that you kind of wanted to put a little bit more, I don't want to say adult twist on it, but just a little bit more of a serious twist on it, and really kind of go all out on that? Or did it kind of develop after you started kind of writing?
You know, I'll be honest. I thought of the place where you ended up last episode. I thought of that first.
Oh,
okay, that's cool.
And I thought, what are the coolest pieces here? What are the coolest tie-ins? What are the things from season 1 that I could, build on that somehow gets you here? And then I thought of Vito Fresk and this little backstory that he had, and I had no idea why I put so much effort into his backstory, but I wanted you guys to have the sense that he was, he was genuine, that he was a good person, that yes, he, did some bad things and trained gladiators to fight and die in these arenas in this terrible city that you guys know nothing about. But that he freed them, that he helped them escape, that, he left and he fled, and now he's here in Ashmore working to do things differently. And so Badrigan came up, and it was one of the few named places outside of Ashmore that you guys knew. And I thought, if I'm going to start with totally different characters, it has to be a totally different place. And how do I get you in this underground sort of space where there's like a city underground? How do I get you there? And so I kind of worked my way back and thought of some of the little bits that Vito brought to it in season 1, and thought, okay, there's a uprising, a slave revolt in this city. The Baron, who I mentioned in season 1, he's a bad dude, we know that. He's just holding on, trying to keep this city on lockdown until help can arrive, and you guys are trapped there. And so it just kind of organically, I guess, became dark, because I'm like, this is a terrible place. I had established that.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed it was going to be a little dark if we were going to be in Badger. You had already sort of painted this whole realm as pretty evil.
Not nice.
So
Yeah.
I guess the chaos certainly was then, fit, because any kind of revolution or any kind of, most revolutions are not peaceful in many ways.
Yeah.
And so that had to happen that way. And I mean, I was well written. I really liked where you're going with this. And I really just, I'll tell you, you said you wanted us to feel trapped. Boy, did I feel trapped.
Yeah.
Almost to the point of like my character felt emotionally claustrophobic.
That's the word I was hoping I was going to hear. That's what I wanted, to feel like, that you guys were really, bereft of resources, opportunity, anything that really mattered in a normal campaign. Gold was meaningless. It was just, like a barter economy, and most of the people there had no more skills than you did. And just kind of, working your way through that and figuring this out without any of the normal benefits, which you guys, again, brought a lot to that, which made it, I think it would have been very dull with, lots of, anyone else in your place could have been very bad, could have been very dull without, the typical, hack and slash and fighting for gold and, finding fancy weapons and things like that.
Right.
Interacting with people that were more powerful than you, which didn't really happen at all. I mean, you had some fights with people that were more powerful than you, but, the average people that you ran into were kind of in the same boat that you were, and no one was there to help you. And tried to make that clear when Kragar, was bitten by the were-rat, and he debated a long time whether that was a good thing.
Accept it.
But I want to see, like, you'd have to go on this quest all the way across the city just with the slim hope that you would find someone that could actually do anything about this. And
was there a part where he wasn't going to succeed, or was that up to Don?
It was kind of up to him. Yeah. I mean, I figured that this, Olendar priest. Oh man, I can't even remember his name now. He had to factor into this, to kind
Galen.
of, Galen, yes, Father Galen or Rector Galen.
Mm-hmm.
He had to factor into this to kind of move some of those secrets along that you guys there was no other, easy way to explain how you would come across this knowledge. And so I thought, there's, Olendar is in my little pantheon that I built early on in season 1. And, what role does he play and what does his, so it was, I think something that was always going to happen, but totally up to Kragar, whether he was going to accept it or not.
Okay.
Interesting. You could tell our frustration with Wolf Canute, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that was part of it. Like, who do you trust?
Well, plus we just felt like
Nobody.
we just felt like Aaron boys at some point, and it got really frustrating. Like, we want to break out of this, but you keep on having us do stuff, but yeah, we still do it.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of beholden to getting certain things out of him that we wanted, and it's like you kind of dangled this stuff for us, but we had to do this in return. It was fun.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys watch the show Vikings at all.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so this very clannish kind of existence that these pirates have. That they're they have their own ways and they don't expect you to understand them, and they don't care if you understand them, and so they're always just kind of dangling little quests out for you to handle, and maybe you glean some bit of information from that afterwards, but you really had to fight for it. And I didn't want you to love him. There were times where I thought, oh, they're gonna freaking kill Wolf Canute before I can actually get to the end of this story. And Skolavig, I worried about her.
Yeah, she was a greater risk than Wolf Canute.
Yeah, Kragar really wanted to kill her the whole
Oh
time.
Yeah. And you definitely could have. I would have had to rewrite lots of things. But I mean, that's part of what makes it so much fun is every time you guys do something that is a little bit different, not even different, but something you say or something your character believes in or does in the game kind of makes me rethink some of this stuff. So I'm always adjusting as the season went along, trying to make it more interesting for your characters and working in things where you guys can shine and do what you do best, which is play this game.
I think that I felt like, or Tris felt like, that there wasn't really a good option. Like, she kept doing the stuff for Wolf Canute because it's like, okay,
I got nothing. I mean, what else do we do? Yeah.
There were no good guys.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating.
Yeah, Brokos was just following them because he had nothing else.
Yeah.
I felt like Brokos was following the rest of the group just for security, because he probably would have died without them.
Yeah, Wolf Canute, I think you guys felt about him like I had hoped that you would. Haydn, I think I tried to make him more. I wish he would have come off a little more harmless and befuddled most of the time, but helpful. And you guys really seem to mistrust him the whole time too.
Well, it's because he was loyal to Wolf Canute.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
That was
And
kind
it's
of inseparable.
And it's player versus NPC 101. Don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
It's like any game that like when you GM a game, and I swear, when you could have the most lighthearted NPC trying to help out, giving you all the information you need, and wait a minute, there's part of me that doesn't trust him. Maybe we should have our blades out just in case we need to murder him. It's just like,
that's why at the very end there, I really, as maybe not Kragar, but as Don, really thought, okay, this is going to be the big reveal, and Arvik is the villain. So when I asked you guys which one you want me to stab, I was thinking maybe I should just take him out because there's just something not right about all of this.
I don't know if you would have been able to take him out, because that might have been. He looked like he was the way he handled Skolavig. I wonder if he would have fought back.
That's a good question. I definitely
Yeah.
would have had to have
'Cause-
thought about that, but I am so, I'll tell you, I'll be honest. Arvik was kind of throwaway character at the start.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, just he was there to kind of flavor this whole feeling that you had about the pirates in general, that they
Mm-hmm.
were not really good people, that they were kind of savage, kind of, so he didn't really factor in until you guys really took a liking to him and seemed very protective of him, both him and Barnacle. And Barnacle was just kind of put in there to show that there might be a different side to, some of the pirates, like you're going to have to figure out who you can trust here, who's good, who's not. And it's going to take a little bit of work. And you guys latched onto him, and then there were lots of times where you're like, "Oh, if you kill Arvik,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Okay, well, they really, and you didn't take to Haydn at all," which I realized right away that this was not working. Whatever I was doing with him was not working at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I had to kind of latch on. So I had a much grander arc for Haydn than Arvik. And so I just kind of had to flip them around and figure out partway through, like, what is Arvik's story here, and why does, and I had thrown in some bits that I couldn't really explain, like why Skolavig hated him so much. And originally it was just because, he was simple, and that kind of weakness in their society just is not something that they appreciate.
Well, that's why I felt protective of him, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Haydn was too slick. He was too evasive. Like there was too much question mark there.
Yep.
That's why I didn't trust him.
Yeah, I think I played him a little bit too strongly, and tried to reel it back in, and just was not. You guys had made up your minds, and I'm like, okay, so I have to adjust here, and how does this work? And then I was, just one day thought, oh, what if Arvik, he's a very seemingly simple man, does some very unorthodox things among these pirates. Like, he's a farmer. He loves to grow things. He likes to nurture things. He likes to build things. Not something that they're good at, not something that they care about, not something that they prize in their society at all. And so he represents a very different kind of approach, very different way for this whole community that has been cast out and exodus from their harsh island homeland, and now are here on the mainland. And what does the future look like for them? I know I'm making way too much about this whole thing, but that's all the stuff that was going through my head. Like, maybe he has a bigger destiny. And so that was actually one of the questions that I wanted to try to answer, was the Arvik, what did he do to become king? And I think I related in the, in game at some point, but, it's anyone who's familiar with the Husafell stone in Iceland, kind of the 490 pound stone that, people in Iceland try to pick up, and as a test of manhood, and either you're like half strong or you're full strong or whatever, depending on what you can do with the stone. If you actually manage to pick it up off the ground, which 409 pounds, I don't know who can do that. Not me.
I'm sure Bjorn Thorson, the guy from Iceland, the world's strongest man, probably could.
Yeah,
it's
but it's like they considered it like they saw it as Thor's hammer, the Mjolnir, as like a test of strength, and like that. It's a really interesting story behind that stone. But it's oddly enough, you speaking of Iceland and stuff, Crane took it. The way you describe, it's like both sides of the cultures of the Vikings. They had the pirate side and the raiding side, but they also had the like Arvik, which was the farmers. They were farmers. They were builders. They were incredible inventors of many things that we still use today. The Vikings were. So you had that portion of it, but also they were also, on the weekend they would go Viking. They would go and raid and do horrible things to show their will upon other people. So that's both sides of the Viking culture.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's what I was trying to pull out with this particular group of pirates, is that they may be stuck in this one mode of raiding all the time at the expense of everything else, and Arvik represented the other side of that, the craftsmanship, to build these ships that they have, the desire to farm and find new land and fertile ground and things like that, and so it sort of made sense in my mind. It probably seemed a little abrupt to you as players that all of a sudden this person you felt like you had to protect because, of his maybe limited abilities in this culture, was suddenly somebody who was going to lead them. And hopefully it came across that he was a tremendous fighter, which obviously is going to be helpful whatever the future holds for the pirates of Thuringar. And I imagine that, if there was another campaign, another season down the road, that could definitely be part of it. Like pirates retaking the Thunder Isles from, these creatures from Shadowfell.
How close was Kragar to killing Skolvig?
Well, it was just a matter of the right opportunity.
Right.
Now, from a practical standpoint, he assumed that she was probably really good. So because from the very beginning, like we were still like level 1. It's like, oh yeah, I want to stab this person, but survival instincts say no, she'd probably just kill him.
Yeah.
Right.
But he was hoping that there was a few opportunities that would pop up, but then it just never kind of happened.
The one when we met her in the tunnel, that was probably the most opportune time.
Yeah. I think the other part is he didn't really know that you guys were totally on board with just attacking her.
I would have given it a shot. Yeah, I was giving it a shot. So Brokos' attitude is he's just going to follow. So whatever you guys, he's going to, okay, I'll do what I can to help. There's some things he'd probably stand up for himself for, like Arvik, but otherwise there's not much else that he's like, okay, they're doing this. This is my lifeline.
I have a very important question.
Yeah.
What happened to Barnacle?
I have that on my list.
Okay.
Barnacle was fine.
Good.
I think Barnacle was going to be rescued and probably taken to Ashmore to live a good doggy life somewhere.
Okay.
Or maybe Arvik would reconnect with him. And I'd sort of thought about, Arvik takes the Dreadgate. Arvik's like unofficially their king, and the larger group of pirates show up. They open the gates. They come in. Badrigan is now theirs. This is now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Yeah.
Once you kind of decided the battle between Skolvig and Arvik, did you ever think of Skolvig killing Arvik and Wolfcanute taking that power?
It probably did cross my mind at some point, because it's just kind of degrees of how dark and gritty I wanted this to seem. But, I figured at some point, Skolovig, once I decided Arvik had some larger destiny to play, those two are going to have to tangle. Either that or you guys would get involved before that. And then I'd have to kind of create some other sort of moment where he realizes that he has to do the stuff that he hates to do, but that he's really good at, because it helps you guys. It helps his people. It helps everybody if he can do that part. And maybe get them to focus on other things. But, it probably did come up.
There's no joking. If you would have this is, I mean, from my standpoint, when I was looking at while that was happening, if Arvik went down in that battle,
Yeah.
it was go time for me.
Hmm.
I was willing to put my life down for that.
Yeah. And I sort of thought about that because I thought, what if they try to jump in, you know, cut off, I tried to make it just like narrative just for me. I'm just going to read it. But I know you guys feel strongly about Arvik and how this outcome happens. What if you just cut me off and try to jump in? And so the arbiters were there, and you had made a pretty good impression with the High Magistrate Baldric Greylock of the arbiters, and there are probably enough of them heavily armored and enough townsfolk, to kind of, turn this into this massive melee. The Dreadgate would then be pretty much off limits. That would be unattainable, but people could still escape to Ashmore.
I was not just upset about, like really looking at this aspect of just protecting Arvik, because once I learned his strength and who he really was, I was not so much as, protective. I didn't see him as
Right.
less than me. I saw him as a king. So to me, he was more than me. He was much, much higher up than I was. It was more of the disrespect, or the way that I was looking at it, as the amount of disrespect Wolf Canute was giving a king, his king by nature. And I saw it was just like you explained it, Don, before. It was a means to an end for Wolf Canute. He was doing what he thought was best for the people. And I get that portion, but it's still his king by right.
Mhm.
And so that kind of was just like, I get the portion, but Wolf Canute really rubbed me the wrong way already. And Skolvik already, that I was ready to, to throw down, just because the disrespect they were giving to his king.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm glad you got so much out of that, because that's, it's all, there's so much nuance there, and subtlety worked into that whole relationship and Wolf Canute, this, cruel people trying to manipulate, Arvik into kneeling before him and taking the mantle for himself.
Not like it.
Yeah. And, everyone assuming that Arvik is just, some simpleton that, doesn't want to fight, is too cowardly to fight. I mean, obviously they know what he's capable of, and probably have seen him fight many times before in their version of the arena, and in the Thuringar and all of that. But so he's not somebody to be taken lightly, but once they realize that he didn't want to fight, then they try to manipulate, try to intimidate, all of that stuff. And you guys picked up on all of it, which is awesome.
Was Arvik kind of playing down his at the beginning? Because you didn't know right away that Arvik was going to be this character and play this part. So it sounded like at the end he was much more sure of himself, of his where he was and who he was, versus the beginning. He was very, very the gentle, like reposed, and almost the less intelligent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Was
like he was accepting the role that he was told to at that point.
Yeah. That last battle, you guys made it look so easy. I thought the way the first, when you first encountered Razor Wick in the Belfry Union, and Kragar went down, after one round, right? I mean, he was down, and I'm like, oh no, this is bad. And so what if I do two of those people? It's going to be, you're the same level that you were then. And
we learned.
So, yeah, you did some things differently for sure. And so I imagine that at some point Arvik would have become so fearful for you, his friends, that he would have, bust out of those chains, taken these people down himself, and kind of in that moment and with all of that emotion sort of made that realization that he can't let people die when he can do something about it. He can't let his friends be hurt when he can do something about it. And sometimes that's all he can do, is fight back. And so that moment didn't really happen because you guys just mopped the floor with those gladiators. But
I don't know. I wouldn't say we mopped the floor though.
No.
The hold spell, I mean, totally changed that fight.
Yeah. Thank God your wisdom saves
That-
were low.
oh god,
Because we could not have handled both of them.
yeah.
Because how much damage, even after
I
I
agree.
expected her to go down, taking that 57-point hit, whatever it was, and then she was like, "Oh no." I'm like,
Yeah.
Shrug it off.
It was
Yeah.
funny enough because I was waiting for it, and I kept on forgetting. You guys reminded me that hold monster and hold person are two different spells, and I've been waiting so long I've had that spell this waiting there because as a druid you can change your spells.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, well, should I get rid of it? Should I get rid of it? Nope. It's got to be important at some point. And I don't want to have all of these attack spells because that's not me. That's not what I want. If I want to attack, I'll turn into an animal. So I'm going to hold this spell because I want to be this battle support, right? And
Yeah.
sure enough, it
No,
came
it's
to
huge.
fruition.
It
Huge.
was huge. Yeah. I mean, I had spent like 2 days researching all the mechanics of what could Arvik realistically do or contribute with these chains on.
Yeah.
Like how much could he entangle and trap,
Mm-hmm.
mess up these gladiators in a real encounter. And I didn't have to do that at all because you guys, I mean, I couldn't roll over a 9. That was the first problem for wisdom checks. But, you guys did a really fantastic job with that. And I was hoping because the season, you pretty much cleaned house every time there was combat. And at some point I got like, I'm okay with this. Like, as long as you guys are adding your own flavor to the combat and, like it's moving the story along, I'm not going to worry so much that, I put you in a situation like season 1 where you're in fighting the spiders and stuff like that. And, Kragar, I think, was the only one that survived
Yeah.
or didn't go down and managed, to come down to one blow on either side
Yeah.
would have ended the fight, and Kragar got it.
Well,
And-
we did have a few close calls. I was thinking that very first fight when we were trying to take the manor house from the
Mm-hmm.
that got dicey.
Yeah, we got split up. That was not good.
Yeah, I realized that's a long time ago, but I'm like, that was pretty rough.
Yeah, I don't think we thought that one through very well, actually.
Yeah, I sort of had this idea that like every fight needed to be like this like on edge tension building thing. And
As DM, you can never guarantee that, though.
yeah, it's
just
so out
can't.
of my control with dice and you guys, the way you rolled sometimes and the way I rolled sometimes.
Yeah.
Should we point out why we were split up that time, though?
Why?
Do you
was
remember,
that? I can't even
Kragar, you had to go use the bathroom?
Well, that was his excuse.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
that was
right,
that was the
right.
idea, right? To separate them
Yeah.
and then
And
potentially
pick them off. Yeah.
assassinate a couple.
Brokos didn't know that that's what you were. But
Yeah,
you were just
exactly.
going number.
Exactly.
All right, kind of weird time to use the bathroom, but
Yeah.
Have finally
you gotta
privacy.
go. You gotta go.
You know
No
what I
one-
mean? Like
right,
he can do it by
right.
himself. Why wouldn't he?
And it's like it's been a long time. We've only
Nope.
had the bucket.
The little things that no one talks about in D&D is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I added the bucket, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah, I saw, man.
Oh,
That's
it's a souvenir if I ever.
That was a very good of like, oh, this is how it's gonna be.
Yeah, that was. I'm glad that kept coming up repeatedly as a source of amusement throughout the season because.
Till the cup took over.
Yeah. Then the cup happened, and that was pretty gross too. Which I'm still surprised you guys went along with. Just like, no problem. Like I do this all the time.
It was like an older brother seeing if the little brother will do something
Yeah.
that's stupid, right?
Oh yeah. I've eaten so much dog food with my older brother. Not even funny. But yeah, it was cool, and you guys always surprise me. Always. I think about some of the decisions you made that affected Piers, which is another, question I wanted to address. What happened to Piers? And there was a whole, I think it probably would have added like 5 or 6 more episodes where you work with Piers to help him find his sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that connection that Craigar was a night rover and Piers had worked with the night rovers to try to get information about his sister. And I wanted to kind of build like this huge world where you kind of knew more about what was happening in the wider, kingdom, as far as, uprisings down south and this battle between these 2 siblings for control of the kingdom after Eldzic's death, and just kind of tie it all together. And Piers was sort of that linchpin that was going to make that happen. But I think the way it worked out, Piers went his own way, and that was fine. You guys like right away recognize, well, he's a werewolf, and we don't really want to hang around with a werewolf when he turns. Yeah. And I'm just lucky you guys didn't try to kill him right there on the spot. But
yeah,
he's a good werewolf.
He's a good werewolf.
You put so much gray area in this season that it was really hard to know who to trust or who to not trust, and that's not a bad thing.
No, that's a good. I like
a lot of gray area, and that's what I think frustrated me the most as a player. It's like, what the heck is going on? Like, what is our purpose? Where are we? What do I have to do to get out of this, or to help somebody, or not to be here anymore?
Yeah, and it's it's not a strength of mine to adapt on the fly. I mean, I have a story in mind, and or I guess the framework of a story in mind, and you guys help me fill that out and kind of make it morph and develop in different ways, certainly, but still that framework is there. And if something changes that framework substantially, it's hard for me to just adapt on the fly. And I'm sure all of you are better at that than I am, more used to it. Players messing things up for you. But, it's very hard. And so I think some of that ambiguity that was built in, you guys still managed to, I mean, the only thing I can think of that really threw me for a loop was when you didn't go down that last mission that Wolfknut gave you, where you were supposed to go check out the shipwreck. So, and the only reason I realized after a while, I mean, but it took me a whole day to get to that point. At the end of that episode, I was just like, oh, crap. They screwed it up. What am I going to do now? And I was kind of bummed because, and then I realized that it really wasn't consequential to anything. I just wanted this nice tie-in where you got to revisit a character that you really didn't like from season 1, Telford Tongue, who blocked the bridge, with his
we never got our performance out of that either.
Yeah. And so here he was going to be representing the Queen of Ashmore and saying that help was on the way, and I wanted to have like all these conversations about the mighty hero Kull Show is leading this fleet of ships here, and everything is well in hand, and all of this stuff, and I wanted to just play it up and have it be over the top, and but it didn't really move this story along a whole lot. It was just kind of fun for me. And but still, it took me time to get to that point where I don't need this.
But when we got to refuse that, it felt like finally we were able to make a choice based upon our values for Arvik. You know what I mean? Like, I felt really good about being able to do that. So I appreciate you allowing us to, say, screw that. We're gonna go save Arvik.
Yeah. And I think I should have realized it, but as soon as I asked you to go there, when you knew Arvik was gone, I was like, oh God, what the heck was I thinking? Because there's no way they're gonna let Arvik
No.
be taken and then go on some other mission while they figure out the whole Arvik situation. It's like, nope, that's not going to happen.
No.
Not with this crew. But yeah, I think that was really the only part where I felt like you guys had done something that I was just not prepared for, and that might have damaged the story somehow that I was trying to tell, but really you didn't. And Telford Tongue, I think, came up in a more appropriate amount when you met him, in the square in Saltside, where he gave a good speech. You could see who he was and what he was about. And, more of a performer, and, worked really well with Haydn, this was Haydn's plan to get him to do this. And he was just the right person for that job, and convinced everyone in Saltside to join up, and Wolf Canute was moving this way, and everything was coming together, and all this urgency that you guys still had to find Arvik while all this other stuff was happening. Hopefully that came across. Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I think I started this line of thought thinking about Piers, and Piers found his sister, just for all of those.
Good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we were concerned about that. So even though that didn't factor in to your play much, that happened. And some of the other stuff that, he was going to let you in on, workings of the wider world, I think that came out. I mean, you guys knew about the Foundation, this group of ruling families, these merchant princes down in Coram Bray. You guys got that, and they're somehow involved in this. Somehow they've been influencing the Were-Rats, the Darkrun Syndicate, influencing the Gulgonin mercenary, or Gulgonin gladiators, at least in the city, and also somehow tied to this group, this mysterious group that you learned about through Piers and through Triss, the Echelon 9, the military legion faction of werewolves that, sounds pretty dangerous. So somehow all those groups are connected, and you, at the end of this season, were marching towards something. And the only real thread was that you knew that Commander Vosh Glaba, was down there somewhere in werewolf form. And there's one tiny little bit I totally forgot, but when you came across the last orbs, I wanted to have you roll perception, and then if you got it, you would have noticed that some of the orbs were now blinking green, ones that you had passed. And so that was kind of a little bit of a, hint or clue or whatever to tease you into the next season, that someone out there is able to control these things still. Someone is still able to make use of them. And so maybe that other woman that you never really figured out who she was.
So my only problem with going into this underground space is that I'm still, both in character and personally, attached to the Dreadgate. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we've been working all season towards, getting in there and either trying to get out or trying to, take control of the city, protect the city. I don't know. I there's still part of me that is ready to go back there and go with Arvik to do this.
Be pirates.
And I kind of wanted to go with the thieves. So
yeah. Like, sure.
So I guess we're just gonna split our own way, go our own ways.
Cool.
And
that's what it sounds
I mean,
like.
I can swim now, so I'm just gonna jump and turn into a, whatever, and just head back to
Bye.
my village.
Yeah, you could, man.
Yeah,
You totally
yeah.
could.
Somebody asked me the question. Somebody asked me this exact question.
Yeah.
I don't know where, but or when. So I apologize to whoever asked this. Like, what, were you concerned at all that they were going to split up or something was going to happen because you gave them these choices? And I'm like, yeah, I had little bits of text written for each one of these choices. And obviously the much larger was reserved for where I wanted you to be. But if you guys had decided we're going to go be thieves now, or we're going to go help Arvik at the Dreadgate, and I think those were valid enough choices that
Mhm.
could have decided, like, I'm not going to wander down into, God's nowhere underground chasing some werewolf. That seems ridiculous. Which
Well,
it does, yeah. But
well, I mean, maybe a little bit. It was like, well, we're just gonna catch her, and
Yeah, I thought it was going to be
it's
a
like,
quick thing.
like it's not gonna be this underground city.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
not what. And then like, so now we're like, oh, what is this? So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
What have we done?
yeah.
What
This is
have we
more than I was
stumbled
counting on.
upon?
Yeah.
No, I, and whoever asked this question, I was like, yeah, I was as stunned as you were that they just immediately, and again, it's obviously you guys have played the game, and where I'm trying to lead you and where I want you to go, but yeah, it definitely wasn't a guaranteed thing. I figured Kragar would feel like running a thieves guild somewhere would be
Yeah.
pretty sweet.
That would be that's right up his alley.
Yeah.
Back alley.
And somebody would probably want to go help Arvik. That seems like definitely more of a sure thing. Go up there, beat the Baron, which is directly, it's exactly where I
Mhm.
pointed you from day one. The Baron's
Mhm.
the bad guy, and totally makes sense.
Triss was really invested though in following Commander Vosh. I mean, that was
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense for you.
yeah. I mean,
I figure that was the only real bad guy that you had not dealt with so far, that you had any, strong knowledge of, so that you would probably follow that thread.
I guess Brokos, from his standpoint, would probably go where Triss goes because he probably feels like she's the safest bet. Like he feels safest around her because he's scared of Kragar, and well, I mean, he should be,
Mhm.
right? And with Alar, he's just like he wants to follow Alar, but are all of Alar's decisions the best? Like, what are they? Are they for Alar or are they for the group?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
could say, from Baroko's standpoint, is this isn't his homeland. Why should he care about Vagradan? Why? What does he care? What is keeping him here, attaching him here? And it's Arvik, right? But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
but
I
his safest bet would just be because it's all about security, and he feels the most secure on Triss because she seems to be level-headed, and she seems to be like care about other people to a point.
I think that's why, she resonated with so many people this season. I think her character, Rochelle's character in season 1, just, this farm girl who was kind of naive about the world and sheltered for her entire life, doesn't really make a lot of sense to be a leader.
mhm.
But lots of times in season 1, you had to be a leader.
Yeah.
And season 2, definitely your character was designed more to be a leader, and that felt a lot more natural, I'm sure, to
Mhm.
you, and came across a lot more. And just thinking of one of the comments that someone made, it's so nice to have a strong woman moving things forward, leading people. And so I'm not surprised at all that other players picked up on that Triss was really the one that was taking charge in a lot of these cases, and that was coming across. And Alar, voice of reason, every so often, but would do it in his own very
His own special way. Yeah.
special
Alar's-
way.
I never saw Alar as stupid or not, not wise. I never saw him as like, well, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
I always saw him. Brokos has always looked at him as like, he's very smart. He knows a lot.
Yeah.
So there's never a question of that.
It was a good arc for him, and I'm glad that you made that choice partway through the season to kind of step up a little bit more, because I tried to play up a little bit at the beginning this, you're trying to be somebody who you don't need to be,
Right.
you're trying to
Right.
be this over the top character, and I'm trying to point out like how silly that is when you have lots of good ideas and you have lots to offer this party, and you did that. You grew throughout the season, and Brokos really did the same thing. Like, I'm gonna follow this person and take my cues from Alar, and then like, Triss's leadership, like he grew in that way and was so helpful throughout the season. Kragar, though, I think was definitely my wild card in pretty much every situation. Like, I did not know what he was going to do, and it was kind of made it more interesting for me to see like who's going to talk Kragar out of the craziness this week.
It's a good thing they did, because he would have really derailed your story.
Sometimes I wondered if we were going to be able to.
Right.
Well, he had times in season 1 too where he was, Cull Show, some of that barbarian, wild orc man would come through, and he would throw me for a loop for a second, but had to be talked back to reality a little bit. So it's definitely an element he brings, which I definitely appreciate.
Well, then we thank Rochelle for keep him reeled in. So,
She has a lot of experience now in real life.
Yeah.
So where do we go now?
Where do we go now? That's a great question. I think we are in talks about doing something between now and when season 3 would pick up, because we are going to take a break in the hopes that maybe pandemic will have a vaccine and we'll all be able to gather in person again.
You're welcome to come over and do it in my library here.
Okay.
It's a pretty sweet library.
Thank you.
Definitely better than my basement, which is still what you get here. But so we're taking a break, but we want to do some other things. So we're talking about a murder mystery show for the holidays, which could be a lot of fun. I think Thad has volunteered to lead us on that, which I'm excited about, because I want to play a character and be someone cool for once.
Yeah, Jerry.
And so we're still going to be around, still doing things. We'll still be on Facebook, and still looking forward to getting back and playing this game together for sure. That's about all I can say right now, right? Unless anyone else has something to add.
Like my 3 shows a night in Vegas.
Oh yeah. Don't plug that in my new book. No, I don't have a book, but no, we're going to try to fill some of this gap here with some fun stuff, different stuff, hopefully, and maybe even some stuff that will involve all of you, the listeners. And since we're doing some of this over Zoom, there's no reason why you guys can't join in and be a part of it live and talk with us live, and we get to know some of you. So look forward to that. I'm excited about it, and hopefully you are as well. That's about all I have. Thank you all for playing. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all who have supported us, whether it's through reviews or feedback or being a patron on Patreon, which is still amazing. Some of you really need to take that money and invest it or something.
It's very kind.
Yeah,
very
it's
kind.
incredibly kind, because it is very nice to know that we have the expenses for this little show pretty much covered, and that
Good.
is an awesome feeling.
Good.
If everybody, any listeners, have any ideas of what they would just, hey, would so and so do this, or questions, I'm up for keeping contact with listeners. And I know sometimes I get told from some listeners, people that I know, that this is like they do this part of this. Shout out to my father-in-law Jeremiah, who's probably listening right now while he's been doing the crosswalk for the kids. That just to keep in touch, and this world, it's a big world, but things like this can make it really small and seem like we're the D&D community is pretty darn cool. So I like keeping in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really been my refuge throughout this whole pandemic. Just seeing people, the election, that was still is a little bit contentious.
Right.
Don't see that changing anytime soon.
Nope.
There's a lot of craziness out in the world, but there's one thing that I go to all the time, and it's so consistent and so refreshingly carefree, and that is the D&D community, the role-playing community, and really been the thing that helped me stay sane. And I may think I'm joking, but I don't know what I would have done without this game over the past 9 months. So thank you so much, everyone listening. And as Thad suggested, stay in touch. We will have an extended break here, but we would love to plan to do some things. So if you have any ideas, feel free to share those with us. And again, thank you for listening. And to you players, my friends, thank you for playing this game with me. Thank you for being such good sports. And
thank you, Jerry.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you
do a lot of work.
Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, Jerry.
And until we see each other again, if you have any questions in the meantime that we did not answer in this, feel free to give us a shout out. Again, we're all on Facebook. We're all checking those messages that you leave for us, even the bad ones.
We even get good ratings for quick response. I mean, that's so.
Do we?
I'm just saying. Oh yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. There was a time there where I went on vacation, and then it seemed like we dropped off the radar, and Facebook really said, "Wow, you're terrible. You should just probably shut down."
Who listens to Facebook anymore?
No,
but we need you,
nobody.
Facebook.
We still need you. Well, thank you all again, and thank you for listening. And please don't be strangers. Stay in touch with us, and we hope to, be back and playing this game again soon. Until then,
Absolutely.
Be safe out there.
Yep, stay safe.
Take
Bye,
care, guys.
everyone.
Au revoir.